Welcome. Welcome, everybody. Thanks for joining, everyone. If you don't mind, press the like button and share with friends. Get a few people in here, maybe get a good conversation going. Oh, we already have a guest request.
Good evening.
If I
I'm
recall,
in the
you're
middle
in
of
Germany, is that right?
yeah, it's
So it's
2 a.m.
oh wow. Well, hope you don't like jeopardize your health to stay on my live or anything.
No, no, it's
So
fine.
how's it going?
Good, good. Um, I was actually thinking of researching interferometry.
Oh
Um,
yeah,
I don't even know if I can. I don't know if I pronounce it right.
I think you
It's
did.
yeah, I think um, it's the concept of detecting gravitational waves from black holes. But I ran into a problem. I don't know where to get the advanced stuff. Like if I research, if I Google advanced interform, if I
You
if I
nailed it the
Google,
first time, and that's a difficult word even for native English speakers, by the way.
yeah, if I Google interferometry, um, advanced interferometry, it only shows me the articles I've already read, and those are
Hmm.
all basic from high angular resolution astronomy, the center,
Hmm.
and from Advanced Science News. Um, but I know a guy who could maybe show me something more advanced in Sweden.
Yeah, sometimes you just need like to talk to a human being who understands it a little better and can help out. I
Yeah.
I've had situations like that where I mean, to this day, I don't really understand. I don't have an in-depth understanding of Einstein's relativity, for example. Like I've made
You,
it, I think, like 50, maybe 100 pages into his. No, probably not even that many. Like 50 pages into his book, Relativity, and I
mm,
hit basically a wall where my brain just started to like freak out because of the information. I was like, I can't. Okay, I understand the concepts just well enough to know that there is a lot of parsing that I need to do here.
mm. Do you have the book or his
I
works?
have
Do
it.
you have
It's
it?
it's in another room right now, so I don't have it like
Okay.
where I can grab it.
Yeah, because I have something from Einstein too, but it's in German. It's called From My Late Years.
Hmm.
I don't know if you have that.
I don't have that
Um,
one.
I I haven't actually looked into it yet, but I've had it for like 3 years. Oh yes, 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 yes. Okay, it's advanced. Okay, I can actually use this. It's
That's cool.
uh, it's about freedom and science.
By the way, guys, we're just kind of chilling and killing time, I think. If any flat earthers in the comments there who are like, just throwing peanuts or whatever would like to request to join, we can certainly chat about actual flat earth issues or whatever. And Olympia, I think I'll make an exception to my rule of 1v1. So if you want to stay on with a flat earther, you're welcome.
Yeah. I can mute myself if you
You're
want to.
also welcome to chime
One
in
on
if you
one.
want.
Yeah. I'm a, uh, my vocabulary isn't that good. Yeah.
Sorry, I had a distraction behind the camera there. My wife brought me that Einstein relativity book, and in the process of handing it to me through the door, she accidentally let our cat in, and she was trying to herd the cat back out of the room so that it didn't interrupt the live. Yeah, so this is the book I was talking about.
Oh
It's
yeah.
it's probably
Wait.
mirrored because I'm using the front
Yeah,
camera on my phone,
let me
and I have
just put my book
a
very nicely in the
request
chat.
from Dan Juan. I know I've talked to you before, Dan Juan, but I can't recall. Can you tell me if you're a flat earther? Sorry, I have user blindness sometimes.
Do you know Baron? Baron Rutledge?
No.
Peter? He's a good debater. Maybe he can come up if my English skills aren't that good.
Well, maybe we'll just invite Dan Juan and see what he's got to say.
Yes.
Sound good?
Mm-hmm. We do that.
All right. Oops.
Hey Peter, Peter.
Hey.
Hey man, I'm not sure, I'm definitely a Glober, but Bob the Science Guys and your lives, I have been watching them. I've been thoroughly enjoying them. Y'all guys
I
are
love it when he
pretty
comes
good
on. He's
together.
he's
Have you? Yeah, he's awesome, and I mean everybody you have on really has been really good. But something that I've been tracking and like sort of trying to like figure out if there's any like relation to anything. You know how like geese is and like migratory birds, it's some people say, and I'm not 100% sure, that they can feel the magnetic field with the earth. Have you, or the magnetic field to help them guide, sort of like a compass in the head? Have you ever heard that?
I feel like I have heard that, but I would not really know the first thing about that. Like, uh, that's biology, and biology is not my strong suit. Let's just put it that way.
Yeah, well, something I'm
But it's
finding, yeah. So it's people believe that migratory birds can feel the magnetic little Shih Tzu, right? And I've been tracking which way he positions himself when he takes a dump, and like 87% of the time he's facing north when he takes a dump. It's just sort of strange. I don't know if he's
that's
like
funny.
I don't know if he's like positioning himself to find out, where north is, but I just find it sort of funny. But
All right, we
yeah,
got
Peter, I love your stuff, man. We Go ahead. I'll let you get back to your show, man. Y'all take care.
well, thanks for joining and sharing. Um, I just looked it up on
Yeah, my
Wikipedia,
my dog
and
faces north in the boot.
there is a mention on Wikipedia that birds appear to orient themselves using Earth's magnetic field. So I'm sure there's more
Yeah,
detail behind that
yeah.
we
I
could
think my
research,
dog
but
does it too. Yeah. Anyway, yeah, magnetic field. Bye, guys.
thanks for joining, Denwan. All right, we got a flat earther here, son of Africa. He's been on my live once before, I think.
I
Um,
don't know him. Invite him.
you okay if I disconnect you, Danwan?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I don't know how to do it myself.
Oh, okay. Gotcha. Well, have a good night. All right.
What up?
Welcome, son of Africa.
Thank you.
I don't 100% remember our last conversation, but I feel like it was probably with Black Knight talking about the moon. Does that sound familiar?
Yeah, yeah. You were speaking about the moon. Yeah, yeah, that's correct.
Oh no, I disconnected Alippy. I'm so sorry, Alippy. Did I press the wrong button?
Yeah, you disconnected to one.
Sorry.
Oh, it's okay.
That's embarrassing. Sorry about that. So, Son of Africa. Um,
Yeah.
what would you like to talk about today?
So gravity is not a force, right?
Who says?
Einstein said that.
Wait, what?
Okay.
Yeah.
What
Well,
did you say?
let's not get into the theory of relativity right now because I don't think either of us understand it, to be quite
All right.
honest.
All right. So
And it's
okay.
also completely irrelevant to the shape of the Earth.
Well, it is. It is. It is very.
Okay, first
Yeah.
you explain to me how it's relevant to the shape of the Earth.
But as a flat earther, I get asked a question. Uh, why don't we fly to space if there is no gravity? So that's why it's like it's relevant to speak about it.
Okay, so you heard something that you think is an inconsistency in modern science, basically, and so you think that is going to help out flat Earth theory?
Yeah, yeah. Because look, because
Okay, well,
like
it's not an
most of the
inconsistency in modern science. I can tell you that right now.
right, but well, what holds the atmosphere? What holds the air in the atmosphere? Why doesn't the atmosphere escape into
Okay,
space?
gravity is an observed force. So, I mean, when you hear about relativity saying that it's not a force, I think what that actually is saying is, and I don't 100% understand relativity, but I know this much. It does not overturn that aspect of Newtonian gravity. Like, we obviously still observe it as a force. Okay, in a practical sense, it still is a force. I think maybe what you might have heard is that it has to do with the distortion of space time and like how it's like comparable in some abstract way or some like fundamental physics way comparable to acceleration,
Yeah.
but like that doesn't negate the fact that in a practical observational sense it absolutely still is a force.
But if it is a force, why it doesn't work on gases? Why
It
doesn't
does work
gravity
on
work on
gases.
gases?
It
Well,
does.
helium balloon goes up.
That's because the air around it is heavier, which the air around it being pulled harder by gravity pushes under it and then lifts it up through the effect of buoyancy.
Well, it
Buoyancy
could be
is an
just
effect produced by gravity.
it could be just that it's going into low pressure, and buoyancy is ability of floating, right? It's not the opposite of gravity. It's just ability of floating.
I just explained how buoyancy is an effect of gravity. So when gravity is pulling on the air around the helium balloon, because that air is heavier than the helium, that air gets pulled harder than the helium. So the air around the helium fills the space under it. If there's any air above it, that air falls down below it. It's the same thing as like, a piece of wood in water. Um, it it's because the medium that is providing the buoyancy effect is heavier than the object, and that means that it gets pulled down with more force to to fill that space under it. And
Yeah,
because
but you just explained it that the thing which is below it is not more force, it's more dense. That's why so it's like displacement there. So which means which is not explaining, because like if we get an apple and then we put it in water, it's going to float. If we put it in air, it's going to like go down. That's a different medium,
Right,
right?
because on the scale of like the force of gravity, you've got like air is less has less force of gravity, and then there's the apple, and then there's water. So like, there's a hierarchy to things because of how much mass or density each substance has. And so, basically something is not going to fall due to the force of gravity if there's something underneath it that is heavier than that object that is supporting it. Right? Just the same way that I'm not going to fall because I'm sitting on a chair, the chair, I mean, I guess you could sit on a chair that's not as heavy as you, but like that's where the analogy breaks down. But like that there's a column of air under the helium balloon that's heavier than the balloon. So the balloon, the force of gravity, even though gravity is pulling downward on the balloon, it's not pulling down with enough force to displace that column of heavier air. Same thing with the apple in water. There's a column of water underneath that apple that's heavier than the apple. So even though gravity is pulling down on the apple, it's not pulling hard enough to displace the heavier water underneath.
But why do we leave one of the attribute or variable that the higher we go, there's low pressure, the higher we go, and then maybe not maybe, but actually one of the reasons why a helium balloon goes up because it goes into low pressure to seek its equilibrium.
Yeah, it's because the column of air, like, so air is pulled down by gravity too, right? That's why the helium balloon floats, is because it's pulling down harder on the air underneath the helium balloon, right? But
Uh,
the air itself, that means the air itself is pulled down. And if the air is pulled down, then it's going to compress downward into a pressure gradient because as gravity pulls it downward and compresses it toward the ground, the area near the ground becomes more dense, which makes it heavier. Then, you've got a thick column of air down here and a thin column of air up here that's not as heavy. So it doesn't have the force to displace the heavy column of air.
No, there is a displacement, because this is what happens even in nature, right? This is in nature. When you have sunlight and all that, we have evaporation, water vapor. So hot air goes up, always goes up, because
Yeah,
it's
because when it heats
very,
up, it
very
becomes
light.
less dense. That's why it rises.
Yeah, it's less dense, right? So it's not
So even
displacement.
there, you see the principle of gravity on display.
Oh, no, no, but if the air is living, if you're cooking, I just finished cooking. If you're cooking and then you see that steam going up, you think that's displacement, or because it's just hot air is just going up?
It's because the steam from the steam from your pot or whatever is not as heavy as the air underneath it. So gravity is pulling
Yeah.
harder on the air that's above it, and it causes the two to switch places
Well,
because the
that's
heavier
an
air
ex.
above falls.
Well, that's an excuse. That's an excuse.
No, that's how it works. How is it an excuse?
Yeah, because you can do this. You can do this even if you have your container sealed. You have your container sealed, and then you heat up your water. You heat up the container. You see that you have steam. You have water starting from above, from the top, going down. There's levels of layers of air there, cold air and hot air, which means it's still not gravity. It's just hot air goes up and then cold air stays down because it's more dense. The cold air is more dense,
Okay,
has
do you
more
understand that
water
when you
particles.
say something is more dense, you are referring back to gravity?
No,
Yes, you are.
be, yeah,
The,
because
the
no,
concept of density
because
has no meaning outside of gravity.
well, uh, because look, I smoke, right? So if so like if you roll a paper and then you put it at a 45-degree angle, and then you lit the top of it, and then when the smoke goes inside of that paper, the smoke gets moist. So there's moist being created there, and then when the smoke is moist, you see that smoke goes down because it's more dense now, and the other smoke goes up, which is up there. It's less dense, but the smoke which is coming up from the paper, because it's moist with the water, with the heat, that's why it's going down.
You're literally just borrowing concepts from gravity. When you say dense, less dense, or more dense, that's borrowing concepts from the theory of gravity.
All
That's
right,
how it works according to gravity.
all right, I hear you. I hear you. All right, that's all I got for today.
All right.
That's all I had for today.
Well, I don't know if we talked about sunset last time you were on, but that's my premier evidence for the globe. Or I should say,
Uh,
premier evidence to disprove a robothemist flat Earth. So basically, that puts the flat Earth back in like conflict with basically time zones. You know, the fact that
uh,
it's a different time
but
of day for you than it is for me.
but for the issue is that at the North Pole, right? Not at, actually at the North Pole, Alaska, right? Uh, yeah. Sorry, I read a comment. That's why I'm trying to
I
catch
got Black Knight
the.
requesting. He was pretty cool last time he was on. I might see. I try to keep things limited just because of my I probably have undiagnosed autism, so I try to limit the amount of stimulation on my brain, and because of that, I like to limit the number of guests in my live. But it seems like Alippi likes to kind of sit back a little bit and not be as active in the conversation.
Yeah,
And
Peter,
Black Knight certainly was very patient last time he was on. So I guess as long as we can keep things like calm and where everyone's taking turns speaking instead of talking over each other, then I'm gonna be okay with this. But
Peter, you can
What's
just
good?
mod me. You can mod
I've
me
got
and
like 20 minutes to be on here, and then I have to
all
grab the
right,
dinner. But
I appreciate everybody uh, being understanding and respectful about like
Sure.
all of that. So, did you have something you wanted to say to Son of Africa, Black Knight?
I don't really know where the conversation's at right now.
Oh, okay. You were just hopping in
Sunset.
to see what.
density,
All
and
Sunset.
right, I do
buoyancy.
plan on
Yeah,
partaking in the
okay, we
conversation.
changed it.
I don't know where we're at. If you'd like, I can provide my proof for the
Um,
globe.
yeah, we're in sunset and density. We kind of
Yeah,
started
we had
with
kind
one
of
before.
changed
Uh,
subject slightly,
Okay.
but so I guess we're kind of at a juncture. We could either talk about gravity and density and buoyancy, which Son of Africa was seeming to try to say disproves the globe somehow, or we could talk about sunset.
Yeah, yeah, we can speak about sunset. Yeah.
So
Uh, I'm pointing more towards the gravity buoyancy portion.
All right.
that's
Cool.
your
Bring it
vote.
on.
Yeah, because if I don't know a common theme that I find is that um, a flat earther will say something and then try and like deviate from the point whenever it's being directly attacked and like red herring. Or if a glober says something, then the flat earther will also try to red herring. I want to try to avoid any sort of red herring here.
Well, he seemed to be doing well on that aspect. I don't think Son of Africa has done that to us in particular. Although I do agree that's the common tactic that flat earthers use. I was the one who changed the subject because Son of Africa basically said, you know, well, that's all I got to say, and then let me take the lead. So, you know, I respect
Well,
that.
no, but
Uh,
Peter here, and Black Knight here. Here's the thing, right? Here's the thing with that on that, like, why I yield, because I could go on. Like, if you take an orange, you put it in a tumbler in water, you see that orange is going to float, right? But now, if you peel it, you take half and half and half. Those halves, they will sink. So where was gravity at the first time when it was floating?
Yeah, so buoyancy, all that really is something's tendency to float, right? And we can measure buoyancy to a certain degree, right? But something that makes something buoyant is not being as dense as the water is. So when you have that orange and it's in the peel, there are pockets of air, right, that is inside of that orange. Not to mention, like, what makes up an orange peel, right? Because if you just put an orange peel into the water, it'll float. I'm also not too sure about if, like, the individual orange slices will sink. I don't exactly play around with oranges in water. It's a bit below my pay grade. That's a joke. That's a joke. Don't, like, patronize me for that.
Right.
Yeah, I don't exactly play around with that. But what I can tell you right now is that there's a lot going on with that orange peel. Yeah, so, because water, so once again, with gravity, like, if gravity were truly neutral, right, then that orange could just float around anywhere, right? Like, there's a reason why we only use buoyancy when we're talking about liquids. We don't use buoyancy when we're talking about, like, say,
Oh,
the wind
Black.
blows a feather and makes the feather
No,
go up.
I'm gonna interject Black Knight on that, because like, some other people, some other globers, they say like a helium balloon goes up because of buoyancy. Now you're saying that buoyancy is in liquids?
Yeah, buoyancy applies to all fluids, gas or liquid.
Yeah. The reasoning for the helium balloon is basically that helium is lighter than air, right? So essentially, certain gases have the tendency to either go up or to go down. So take, like, steam, right? Steam has a tendency to go up, but other gases have the tendency to lie lower, especially if they're in a high concentration. When you just fill a balloon with helium, it's not so incredibly condensed that it's it's like weighing it down, right?
Yeah, but even that helium balloon, you can even put some weight to the helium balloon, and it's not going to go up, right?
Yeah,
Or you can make it
because then it's
levitate,
heavier than
right?
air. Yeah, because if you add something to the helium balloon, that makes it heavier than air.
Yeah, but now here's the thing. Here's another thing. Do you know about the Cartesian diver? The Cartesian diver,
Never heard of that. No.
the bottle whereby you have, like when you go swimming, you can control yourself to go under the water. So there's this experiment on YouTube. There's three things in a bottle, and then when they squeeze it, they go down. They squeeze the bottle, it goes down, and then when they leave the pressure, it goes up.
Yeah.
Yeah, so on that Cartesian diver experiment, why does gravity just pull those objects down? Why does it have to be pressure, water pressure?
It can be water pressure because of the way that water works, right? So once again, it's not like gravity's null, right? It's not like you can just, like, suddenly, like, float through the air, right? Just because you have water molecules attached to you. What's going on is basically the human and to be fair, it does change between the types of water, like salt water versus, like, fresh water, or, like, pool water, right? But it would also change the density of that liquid. So if you guys remember back in middle school when you learned about Archimedes, right? And how he was able to design a massive boat for, I think it was a Roman emperor. Um, no one ever believed that it would be able to float because of how much was on it. But he knew how like water worked and what made things float. So he was able to make an absolutely ginormous boat. It's the same thing that's going on with people, right? Like if you look at what is inside of a person, okay, there's a lot of water, there are some pockets of air, right? And like certain organs, among other things, right? And depending on the person, they will either float or sink. If you add pressure into it, that's a completely different story.
Yeah, but that's the same story, right? That's just the same story because on the surface here in the atmosphere, right? The higher we go, there's low pressure, and the way we get to the closer of the surface, there's high pressure. So it's the same principle.
No, because if there's low pressure in the air, you're not going to all of a sudden be floating around. So I tell people this a lot. I used to live in the mountains of Colorado, right, around a year ago. And one of the things that you need to know when you live in the mountains of Colorado is air pressure. There's not a lot of air pressure up there, right? That's why if you're used to living somewhere closer to sea level, there's a lot more air pressure. So when you go up to say the mountains of Colorado, in every single store, um, say like if you go to like Netherland, right? If you go to Glenwood Springs, in almost every single store, you can buy an oxygen tank. And this is simply because the fact there isn't a lot of air pressure. So some people who aren't acclimated to that air pressure will get what's known as altitude sickness, right? And I'm pretty sure we all know what altitude
Yeah.
sickness is, so no point in explaining that. But it doesn't just make you float, and it doesn't like air. No, it's not buoyancy, because no matter how you mess with the air pressure, right, on the scale that we're living on, that is right, or like the higher you go up, less pressure you is, the less pressure there is. I mean, the more close to sea level you are, there's more air pressure. You're not going to be floating through the air. So no, it's not the same principle as water.
Well, yeah, but because we there is that's why like myself, not speaking about others, that's why myself I say that we live in an enclosed system. This is what even the science guy Bill Nye I think said, like we are not going anywhere. We live in an enclosed system. All experiments that we conduct here, it shows that there is a barrier there. That's why things go down to the surface of the earth.
How would a So for one, Bill Nye didn't say that. I'm just gonna say it right now. Bill Nye did not say that. And okay, I'll just say it right now. And even if he did, it is not even close to the context in which you're talking about. Two, I also wanted to mention really quick that once again, even if there was a barrier above us, that wouldn't magically just make things start falling and rising with the air pressure, simply because of the volume. So like this is another thing that you learn when you're in middle school is you learn about the gas laws, right? So say there's a very small volume and there's a high amount of air pressure, right? That also means that the temperature is very high, right? So
Right.
certain things will rise, not very high, right? But certain things will rise because heat rises, and they will
Wait, but
react with that heat because they get
yeah, but
energy from it.
if you do that experiment in third grade or in high school somewhere like that about gas laws, you have maybe let's say two or three different gas types. You put them in a tank without a seal, those gases will disperse. But if you put a seal, you see levels of gases. The high dense gas is going to stay down. It's going to be close to the surface. The gas which is less dense is going to be at the top once you have that tank closed, sealed.
Yeah, that's how it is on Earth too. The higher you go up, the harder it is to breathe.
Yeah, that's why there's a barrier up there.
but it doesn't mean that there's a barrier because gas isn't magical. It's also affected by gravity.
Son of Africa, do you realize that fluid pressure, whether it's gas or liquid, is a way that the force of gravity gets transferred? Like, for example, the fact that air compresses downward to form a pressure gradient, is caused by gravity, or the fact that things fall, if you don't want to use the word gravity, and that causes um, the pressure at the bottom of that air column to be like higher pressure than at the top of the air column, and that's ultimately caused by gravity. But then that force of gravity of all the weight of the gas above it pushing down on everything like transfers like in all directions, kind of diffusing into this like isotropic pressure, so that I mean, like, for example, when those people died on the submarine thing that was trying to visit
The Titanic.
the Titanic, like their vehicle imploded because the water pressure around them was so dense, or so heavy, and the reason for that was because of gravity on the entire water column above them, and all of that
Whoa.
all of that weight was diffused to a pressure inward on the vehicle.
Yeah, but that's you speaking of hydrostatics. That's hydrostatics. That there's a lot
That is
of
not hydrostatics.
water. There's a lot of water which is above you and is creating. That's high. That's why there's high pressure of water down there because there's a lot of water above you.
So
It's
one of
pressing you
these
down.
one of the issues that I run into with flat earthers, that I'm running into right now, is this that you don't seem to realize the interconnectedness between concepts. So earlier you mentioned density without realizing density is an effect of gravity. Earlier you also mentioned, like, we were talking about buoyancy and you didn't realize that was an effect of gravity. Now you're talking about hydrostatics and the effect of like pressure gradients, and you don't realize that's also an effect of gravity. All of these concepts are interrelated. Have you ever seen um like a container of I don't know, rice or beads, or like a ball pit in a kid's play place or something, and if you push down into that um into that like stuff, whatever it is, like if it's a bowl of beads or rice or something, if you push down into it, some of the um, material is going to come upward. How does that happen? It happens because the force you're applying downward gets transferred and diffused in different directions until it deflects upward. This is basic fluid dynamics, and it traces back to a downward force that you applied. Same thing with gravity. So if gravity pushes downward on all matter, that's going to have innumerable effects on the world around us. Not
All
all of
right,
which
but
are obviously immediately like connected to things falling downward.
right. If you look at water itself, like you were speaking about, like um, hydrodynamics, or let's speak about water capillary, whereby you have water goes up. That's against
That's
the law
due
of
to
gravity,
surface
right?
tension. That's a
Yeah,
different
but that's, I
thing.
guess. But why should water go up? Why should it climb the
It's
walls?
surface tension. It's a different thing.
That's where gravity fails. Like that's straight.
No, it doesn't fail. It's a different thing.
Why is all the papers they say? I mean, most of the sources that I've seen, they say that it's anti-gravity. They say capillary action is anti-gravity thing. Why do they say that?
I don't know what you're talking about. What says
Um,
that?
I'm, s- yeah, you were saying that it's surface tension. It's about surface tension, and that's what other globers say. But if I go to Britannica or some other sources, it doesn't mention that it's surface tension. It says that water capillary is. It's just anti-gravity.
That's nonsense. I don't believe you have a source that says
All
that.
right, guys. Looks like I'm gonna have to head out.
All right.
I'm
Well,
gonna
thanks
have
for
to head
joining,
out.
White Knight.
All right, guys. Looks like.
Right.
I mean, there's got to be some misunderstanding here. Like, this is what Bob the Science Guy has mentioned about like aspects of science denial. You're cherry picking. Okay, you go to a
No.
source that you don't understand, you pick a phrase that you think seems to support one of your ideas, and then you pick that phrase out of context. You know, you did it with
Okay.
Bill Nye a few minutes ago. Now you're doing it with the idea of like capillary action.
All right. So you saying that I'm making this up, or the paper which or the source is wrong, or I don't know. I
I'm
don't
I'm
understand.
saying
Do you think I'm
either
making this up?
either you're simply mistaken about a source saying that, or you have misunderstood something. I don't think you're lying. I don't think you made it up. I think you saw what you thought was evidence, but you are mistaken.
So when I say that, one of the article it said that water capillary action, it is actually anti-gravity. Is that misunderstanding, or I'm trying
Yes,
to understand now?
yes,
Yeah?
it's pure misunderstanding. Yes.
Oh, so what does that
Capillary
mean
action
then?
can move against the force of gravity because it's sometimes stronger than gravity, but that doesn't mean that it's inherently anti-gravity. That's not what that means. So like, in the olden days they would make oil lamps by just making a little dish of oil and putting a little wick in it. And even candles work this way, like the wick sort of sticks up out of the fluid or the wax, and if the wax is melted or if it's oil, capillary action, surface tension inside the fluid will cause that fluid to start filling the empty pores inside the wick. And it happens at such a small scale that
What's
gravity is
what
negligible.
what makes the water to go up?
It's surface tension. It's a molecular it's a molecular force inside the water. It's the same reason that like if I were to fill this water bottle, if I were to take this cap off and fill it all the way to the brim, then you'd be able to, if you looked very closely, you'd be able to see that the water would curve upward above the brim of the water bottle just a little tiny bit. It's the same
Yeah.
reason that water forms little droplets instead of just being like
Right.
atomized.
So like
It,
if you take a a paper towel or something like that, a kitchen roll, and then if you put inside your bottle to touch the water all the way to the bottom, would that water climb that paper towel all the way to the top or no?
well, it
Yes.
depends on how much water and how much paper towel you have. It probably would. I mean, but unless I only had a little tiny bit of water, then it might not make it all the way. Depends on how
Right.
much
So
water.
okay, so if you close the bottle, will that water still make it up to the lid?
If
The
there's
first
enough
time you
water
op
and enough like porous material, then yeah, it's trying to fill the cavities in the porous material. So this is why it doesn't work with a non-porous material. If instead of like a wick or a paper towel, you just use like uh I don't know, like this cable, this wouldn't work. For capillary action would not happen on this because it's not porous. Why do you
Okay.
think that happens?
So
Why do you think it prefers whether it's porous or not?
it's according to the material itself.
Yeah, but why?
It's not water. It's just according to the material itself. It's not water. If it's plastic, that's not going to go up. But if it's made of some
I was
type of
asking you
material,
why. You're just repeating the concept. I'm asking you why you think that concept is true.
well, I'm trying to explain it. Maybe I missed. Maybe I missed it. Maybe I missed it because what I'm
So
trying to say is,
I
mhm.
was saying that capillary action prefers porous materials because it's a molecular force inside the fluid that causes that fluid to try to fill the pores. Okay, so that's my explanation for why it works on porous materials and not on non-porous materials. So I'm asking you for what your explanation is for that specific thing.
Yeah. So I'm saying that it's not the water itself, but it's the porous material. It's the material which is letting the water to climb up. It's just the material. It's not the water. If the material is some sort of like wool or tissue or something like paper, that water is going to climb up. But if it's plastic, it's not going to climb up. It's just going to stay. So it depends on the material.
Hmm. Okay.
Yeah, it depends on the molecular structure. Paper has fibers, and the water can rise in between those fibers because the surface tension allows it to do that. And plastic doesn't have that. Doesn't have those fibers. I don't know if
I
you knew
mean,
that.
yeah, basically you haven't explained why if it's just an anti-gravity force, then why doesn't it just climb up the outside of whatever plastic thing you put on
Yeah,
it?
but I explained because of one. If you take a plastic paper, you put inside the bottle that you had earlier on, that plastic paper, try to make it go all the way down, that water is not going to climb up to the top. If you take a paper, a normal paper or a tissue paper, you put it all the way down, that water is going to climb up all the way to the top if that bottle is not closed. If it is closed, that water is not going to climb up to the top. There's two things there. One thing, it has to be open. The other thing, it has to be like a tissue, a paper, like something like a paper. Without air pressing down, the water is not to go up. Without air pressing down, you have air pressing down all the time, right? Like we have air pressing down on us at the moment, right?
Yeah,
Yeah, yeah.
yeah.
So without air going inside that bottle, the water is not going to climb up. If you close that bottle, the water, it was not going to climb up. If you open that bottle, because there's air pushing down in that bottle, there's air pushing water down, so that water, it will try to find another way to go into that material, try to go out of the bottle.
So I'm having trouble following what you're saying, and a few things you just said don't make sense to me. Like, you just said that it's got like it seemed like you were just saying that if you close a water bottle, the pressure of the air inside the water bottle is going to be less. Is that what you were saying?
I'm
Because
saying
that's
that
not true.
if you close the water bottle, there is no air going inside that water bottle.
Oh, so you cut off the flow of air. You think capillary
Yeah,
action
like
works by a flow of air?
yes.
Why?
Yeah, because you can try it yourself. Like the way your bottle is closed, you put your tissue paper in there. There is no, it's not going to happen. It's going to happen only if you open that water bottle because you need air to press that water down for that water to go up and back again.
I doubt that's why, but I mean, even so, like, why would that have anything to do with the? I feel like we're kind of getting off subject here a little bit. The bottom line is,
Um,
capillary action is not anti-gravity.
all right.
I mean, even if I grant what you were just saying, how does that prove that it's anti-gravity or something?
No, until you try it, because like most of us, we just read papers, right? Most of us, we just read papers, and then people they call us, science deniers until we try to do experiment 2 or 3 times to understand what's happening. So maybe like if you can try to do the experiments we did back in third grade once again, try to repeat them, maybe you can understand. But me, I've done this type of experiments.
Okay, well, I still don't see what pertinence it has to the larger subject. Like, it doesn't show, one way or another, it would not show that capillary action is anything other than surface tension. I don't understand
Yeah,
how that
right,
would.
yeah. Yeah, I hear. Look, I hear you. I hear you. And like earlier on, you said like maybe what where I read is not like I said. Maybe I mean look. Maybe
If you
you're
know where
right.
you
Like
read it, I
where
can
I
try to
read,
find it and show it. Like,
yeah.
we can look at it together.
I'm trying to go look it up as well.
Okay.
Yeah, I put it up. Okay.
So I see Alicia in the comments. I asked this in a comment earlier. Maybe it was answered and I missed it. But like, why do flat earthers always use this phrase topographical plane? What is
What is a
like
topographical plane?
yeah, what would a non-topographical plane be? What does that word mean in this context? Nate
All
McGill
right.
says
So
a
I
desk.
have.
Is that what a non-topographical plane would be?
All right. So can I read a little
Alicia
bit?
says
Yeah.
not a ball. So any kind of plane is not a ball. Well, yeah, of course, a plane is not a ball, but like what I'm asking specifically what the word topographical means in this context. What is it distinguishing from? Okay, what would a non-topographical plane be? Yeah, Alicia, you're not gonna dodge my question by asking your own question, okay? You're not even in this live. We got Son of Africa in right now. If you'd like to request as a guest, then maybe we can give you a turn. But um, I was just asking, what does topographical mean to flat earthers? So, Son of Africa, did you find the source?
Yeah. Yeah. I can read it out for you.
Well, I'd like to be able to see it. Do you
All right.
have a,
Okay.
can you direct me to it, or do you have a camera you can turn on, or
Yeah. I'll turn on my camera now.
okay, I'll give you more screen space.
Right. Cheers.
Let's see. And I think maybe
You have to expand him. Yeah, click on his
Yeah.
profile.
So yeah, it's fine. Capillary action is when water travels in narrow spaces due to forces of cohesion and adhesion against the force of gravity. You can play around, you can play semantics there. It's more likely in warmer, damp, and humid conditions. To understand how it occurs, we need to look at science. In, in a nutshell, water will flow on its own against gravity in small space.
I think
yes.
against gravity in that context means just the gravity is still there. The water hasn't lost its gravitational pull, just like you do. Your body pushes against the gravity all the time.
Yeah, if you're sitting down and then you stand up, you're moving against the force of gravity. That doesn't mean
Yeah.
that you've now disproven gravity.
Oh, like I said, you can play semantics here.
This isn't semantics, it's physics.
But here it says like against the force of gravity. Against the force.
Yeah, I don't see
What's the
how that
force? What
contradicts
the
anything I was
force of
saying.
gravity? Yeah, but the force of gravity is what? Is that's why gravity keeps us to the surface of the earth, right? And if this is saying that is against the force of gravity, then what does that mean? It means that gravity is not pulling this to the surface of the earth, right?
It means that there's a different force counteracting gravity.
Right.
Just like when you're sitting down and you stand up, the force of your legs counteracts gravity.
All right, cool. Look, all right. I'm done for today. That's all I had.
All right.
All right, thanks for having me.
Thank you for joining.
All right, cheers.
Have a good night.
Bye.
So Alicia has been a troll here so far. Do you want to join Alicia? Like, I mean, or are you just trying to stir chaos in the comments here? I don't have any other people requesting just at this moment, so
Mm. Peter,
yeah.
do you want to mod me so we can like expand people and
Yeah, how do I do that?
extend you? Click on my profile. Wait. It's in the top right.
Add moderator?
There's yes.
Okay.
And then I think you can add the comments on my moderator rights.
All right, did that do it?
I don't know. Wait. Yes, I got the notification.
Cool.
But yeah, I think it has load. Wait. I am going to okay. Yes. Oh, I'll expand you. Wait. I can't click on your profile. I can't click on your profile. Shrink.
Yeah, I had
Yeah,
trouble with it
it's not it.
sometimes.
Yeah, okay. I don't know how to do this.
Yeah, this is like a big
Mm,
pitfall for flat earthers, and I was seeing it with like some of what I like some content I saw from Witsit as well about like things falling because of hydrostatics or what or electrostatics.
it says
The
electrostatics.
the whole objective of physics is to like okay, so if you at any given time there might be dozens of different factors that affect the motion of objects, right? And the goal of physics is to understand what those factors are, to understand the cause and effect relationships. And that involves deciphering or like separating and isolating different forces to study those forces individually, even though in real life situations, very often they're acting simultaneously on an object. So when like let's take for example a pendulum. You know, you've got a weight at the bottom and you've got a shaft of the pendulum and that thing, you know, you've got it swinging. There's at least two forces acting on the end of that pendulum, right? There's the tensile force inside the shaft and there's gravity. And like if a flat earther was to come along and say, "Oh, because it's made of metal, it's electrostatics causing it to move side to side." Like, okay, you can wave your hand and spout nonsense to say that, but like where is the disciplined separation of forces and the experiments to show that those are indeed separate forces? You know, that it's like it's basically just a smokescreen. They're trying to
Mm,
just smokescreen the globe science, and they offer no real substitute of their own. So, Son of Africa was doing some of that just now with capillary action disproving gravity or something, and it's like, come on, man. This is physics, okay? Physics, the whole objective of physics is to understand different forces and how they interact with objects. And if you're just trying to cherry pick and throw out something to disprove the globe, that's not physics. That's stupidity. I'm sorry. I don't want to be mean about it, but that's what it is.
do you want to invite Elisa? Or maybe she will
Sure.
accept?
I mean, like if she's actually willing to join or whatever.
Okay, I invited her. Maybe she
Thank
can.
you. I appreciate that.
You're welcome. I don't think muting comments is a good way of ending a conversation. That's what
Yeah,
Elisa just said.
they'll just
Um,
instantly play victim, you know?
yes. Um, taking a right to express your um, what's the First Amendment right? What's it called? Freedom of speech. Taking away the right to freedom of speech in your own life is kind of um,
Like a unwise choice.
yeah, it's an unwise choice. You're
Yeah,
just
I
painting
agree.
yourself in a bad image,
Yeah,
and you're also painting the globe in a bad image
right.
to flat earthers.
Right. It's better for teaching and advocating for scientific truth if we just let them say what they want to say and just provide steady, gentle correction. And,
Yes.
you know, I agree. I'm glad we're on the same page about that. So is Alicia basically saying she can't join because she's in a house with people who disagree with her about flat Earth and it would cause drama? Is that her excuse right now?
I don't know.
Okay, well, I mean that could be. I'm not gonna say she's like
Yes, correct.
lying about that or anything. Heaven knows when I first got into debunking flat Earth theory, it was because a friend of mine, his dad, got into flat Earth theory, and I know that caused a lot of problems in their family. So I mean, yeah, like that can be real. I understand that. Um, Although I kind of wish there would be a way to like, I don't know, um, go into a different room and speak quietly or something. I don't know. Oh well, I'm not gonna. We can't force her, obviously.
Mm. Nobody hates you. We just don't like your views on the globe.
I mean, I have no idea what like domestic situation she's in. Like there could be people who are ugly about it. I don't know.
Mm.
Not I know not every Glober behaves well on this, especially if it's like the thing about when a family member goes flat Earth. From what I understand, I can't say this firsthand, but I can say like looking into the situation with my friend. Um, the thing about it being a family member is like it's almost more threatening in that context because um, you can't get away from them. It reflects on you because you know you have family ties with them, and
Mm.
like it affects you more personally. Like it's kind of like I don't know. I think that
Yeah.
tends to bring out the worst in people on both
Oh,
sides,
we
really.
have a request. Wait, my my TikTok is not loading. Okay. Um,
So SJPX3.
yes, yes. Do you want to accept?
Yeah,
Should I
let's
bring
see
him?
what he has
Yeah,
to
okay.
say.
What the fuck? Did he leave? I
Oh.
accepted. I accepted his request. What the fuck?
I saw that he appeared for like 2 frames, and then he was gone.
I don't think he's watching anymore. I can't find him.
Yeah, that must have been a weird timing thing where he pressed like close. Oh wait,
Mm,
no, he's
no, I think he
oh, okay.
he left the live. Oh, he's here. He requested again. Oh no, that's Steve. I'm accepting.
Yeah, let's invite Steve up. Let's see what Steve has to say.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I'm going to be disappointing. I'm not a flat earther.
That's all right.
I did just want to say one thing that was bothering me from earlier. Someone mentioned something that Bill Nye said
Oh yeah,
about
Oh
the
yes, yes.
us being in a closed system.
Yeah, it's
yeah.
completely okay, taken out of context.
Yeah. So that was absolutely something he said though. But it was during
Yes, yes, I know. I've seen the video.
yeah, it was during the big illness that was going around. I don't know how people feel about saying. stuff. Anyway, so yeah, it was during that, and he was basically demonstrating like how masks work. So he had like a candle or a Bunsen burner or something, and he blows through a mask like as hard as he can. And he can't blow the candle out, and then he takes the mask off and he blows it out, and he just demonstrates like, hey, this is our Earth. This is where we are. We got to like protect it. We only have one Earth. We're not going anywhere else. We're in a closed system, like quote unquote. Like he did say those words, but he was just talking about how we can't leave.
In a
This is all
practical
we got.
sense.
We got to protect it, and
Yeah.
Yes, I don't like Bill Nye slander. That's all.
I appreciate you sharing that. That's very, very helpful. Thank you.
Hey, no problem. Yeah, I'm gonna drop
Are
down.
you
That's all I
seriously
wanted to
saying
say.
Bill Nye is a flat earther? What the freak? Who
Someone
thinks
someone
that?
Good live. I like your content. Have a
Oh,
good
thank
night.
you. Have a good night.
have a good night. Someone just brought up firmament just means sky, which
Yeah.
um, that is true. Firmament has nothing to do with the flat Earth, or has never had something to do with the flat Earth. It just means
Yeah.
sky, or the weight of it. It means
Yeah, I keep seeing flat earthers try to say that it means a dome, and it's like, no, that is not correct, and that's called eisegesis. It's a very dangerous way to approach scripture. Very dangerous.
yeah. Yes, it means
Okay.
heavenly vault. Firmament means heavenly vault. Or
Yeah,
can
and
refer
even
to
that like can confuse flat earthers because vault they picture like a
yeah.
rounded hard ceiling or whatever. But like the Hebrew word rakia is where like is what it is in the original language, and that word it's a noun form of a verb, and the verb means to spread something out. Okay, so like
Hobes? Wait a minute.
Ah,
Hobes, I accidentally invited you. Sorry,
oh, I
I
could
wanted to
drop.
tag
I'm
you.
not a flirter.
Yeah, I know. I've seen
I
your
want to make a comment
comments. I
though.
wanted to. Yeah, yeah.
I think
I was trying
I
to
can't stand when
say
they
hello.
say sorry when they say NASA means to deceive in Hebrew because I know for a
yeah,
Yeah,
fact it's
that doesn't
Nasha
exist.
that means to deceive
Rasha, yeah.
yeah,
in Hebrew. I'm familiar with the language, and NASA is obviously an acronym,
And
yeah,
the word
and they
for
state that
NASA.
all the time.
nice. Yeah, that's a big piece of misinformation they spread. So did you say you're familiar with Hebrew?
A little bit.
That's cool. Do you have any insight to offer on the word rakia as well? I'm probably pronouncing that wrong too. It might be like rachia or something.
Yes.
I don't know.
I think it means vastness or something
Yeah,
of that nature.
yeah,
Someone said not
yeah.
a
And
space
And
agency.
it just means heavenly vault. Rachia means heavenly vault.
how
Well, I
fair do
can.
you think it would be to say that the word firmament is a mistranslation of rachia?
I'd say it's very fair.
Yeah, it comes from ultimately from Greek mythology, like because the Greek Septuagint of the Old Testament was used the word stereoma, which is like obviously taken directly from their pagan cosmology,
Hmm.
and like the Latin Vulgate just borrowed that concept when they used the word firmamentum, and then it was transliterated in the KJV to firmament, and now flat earthers are wild, and it does not
Yeah.
mean that in Hebrew. It's just rachia. It means, yeah, like you said, vastness or expanse.
Hmm.
Or they
How old is the KJV?
or they
Because maybe
state
the
where it
no, no,
says in the
you can.
Bible that the earth is flat. Where nowhere in there it's I mean it's a if it is anything, it might be a parable, but it doesn't where they say it's the four corners of the earth, I think.
Yeah,
Something I forget exactly. I don't want to misquote the Bible. But
it does use the phrase four corners of the earth quite often, but like it's talking about like compass points or like corners of a map or something. It's
yeah.
the phrase is just used to mean everywhere, you know, like to the far reaches of the Earth, like everywhere on the Earth. That's what it means, and it's obviously not like giving a detailed cosmology or whatever. It's not saying that the Earth literally has four corners.
Right, exactly. Well, I'll drop down
Anyway,
if you want to get a flipper up here.
well, I don't have any other requests at the moment. They're all being scaredy cats.
Uh,
Let's see. I've been going for an hour and 10 minutes. I try to keep track of how long I'm going because one night I was like I looked at the clock and realized I'd been on live for like 7 hours and I was like, oh my gosh, I did not know. So I gotta
wow.
keep, yeah.
I feel that, as I've been live for like 8 hours once, and I didn't realize because it's just the time's going flying by, and I don't
Yeah.
even know why.
I actually have a lot of fun on these lives. Like sometimes it's frustrating on one level to deal with flat earthers and stuff, if especially if they're not listening or whatever. Um, but even when that's happening, I still find it invigorating. And I don't know why that is. I guess it's just the way I am.
Nothing wrong with that. Did you see Caleb in the chat?
I saw that he joined briefly. Yeah. Yeah. Oh my goodness. Yeah,
He
and
enrages.
somebody was saying Son of Africa is also a
Uh-huh.
neo Yahtzee or whatever we want to say. Like,
It's factual.
how do we get away from that? Like, I don't know what to do in situations like that where, I've got a guest on and then I find out from a comment, oh, this guy's like, we're not talking about that at the moment. So he's not actively spreading those ideas on my live. But I don't know. What's your opinion, Hobbs?
I don't know. It goes into their denial and their conspiracies. Like, I
Yeah.
don't know. I don't know what. I don't know how they think like that.
Well, I guess I mean, like, what's your opinion about how I should handle it? Like, if I
Oh,
find
I'm
out
sorry.
from someone in the comments, should I immediately like challenge the person? And if they, seem to agree with those bad ideas, then I should just kick them, or should I just let it be?
No, I like your idea because other globe channels do the same thing. And they kind of confront them if they have that belief. They instantly kick them.
Yeah.
Yes.
Like they come out and ask them their belief on that.
You think I should do that if I find somebody commenting to say that or
I do,
whatever?
yeah. I'm kind of
Okay.
biased though because I just think it's infuriating, and I don't want to say too much.
Well, I don't think that's bias. I think that's fair. Like, it is infuriating. It's absolutely it's absolutely disgusting and like deplorable that people think that, that it's almost continuing on some small level to perpetuate the injustices.
Oh God, yes. It gets worse than that. Like what they think. Some of them, the
Yeah.
ideologies that they have.
Oh boy. Yeah.
They think they run the world, and oh God, I don't want to say too much. I'm just gonna get really angry.
Well, I appreciate you sharing and giving your opinion on that. I'll take your advice. I think if I find out that one of my guests in the future is or potentially allegedly is one of those people, I'll challenge him and kick him
By the
because
way,
I don't have any.
oh sorry, I thought it was a minority that shared that belief, but it's a majority.
Yeah, that's really depressing, to be honest. Oh man,
Hmm.
I don't know how I'm gonna be able to find flat earthers that don't have that belief. To be honest, like I'll just end up with a live that's constantly like this, where I've got a few Globers on, maybe one or
Oh, that's a good
two
point. I didn't think
in
of
the
that.
chat, like. Yeah, I don't know. It's like how do we engage on this topic at all with these people who are, I don't know. That's a nasty, complicated issue.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's easier to just let it slide by if they're not actively bringing that up in the conversation or whatever. Or, I don't know.
What is a Yahtzee?
Well, that's just our way of avoiding getting flagged by TikTok by saying the more sensitive word here because it rhymes with it.
Ah, you mean national?
Yeah.
The other one. Yeah, okay.
Yeah,
Yeah,
the
I've
fascist
noticed that too. Yes,
ideology.
yes.
Uh, yeah.
Now I understand what you're
When I
wishing
saw
there
someone
for.
use that word, I was like, "That is amazing! I'm gonna use that."
Yeah, because Yahtzee is a game. Do you know Kniffel? Um, it's wait.
Yeah, it's like a board
Oh,
game
it's a
with dice.
brand. It's a brand.
Yeah.
Yes, yes. Here, yes. Wait, I'm gonna turn on my camera.
Yeah, I think I've played the game once or twice when I was a kid. Yeah.
And this is exactly how one of the comments wrote it. So I was really confused.
Yeah, well, it's literally just because that happens to be a word that rhymes, and so we use that substitute. That's all it
Mm.
is.
Oh, he still doesn't get it.
Because it rhymes with the word for the fascist ideology. So
Mm.
because we're scared of saying the actual word so that TikTok doesn't flag our
And they
live or our
probably
comment.
would.
Yeah.
Yes.
TikTok has a pretty like heavy hand when it comes to that kind of thing.
But I think sometimes it depends on who you are. Because I've seen videos um, where there's the swastika in the video in the picture, and it doesn't say educational purpose only or something like that, and it's on for like days. And I think some of you may know the trend on I think it's in December where people just post porn on TikTok, like literal
Yuck.
pornography on TikTok.
Oh my
And
god.
sometimes the algorithm will just ignore it.
Well, I'm
Yeah,
gonna
I don't
drop
know.
down. I have to go. Thanks for having me up.
Well, thanks for joining Hobbs and sharing. It was nice to hear from you. Have a good night.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.
Yeah, the way TikTok applies its rules it certainly doesn't always seem intelligent or fair. Um, but still
Yes.
better safe than sorry.
Hmm. Do you think TikTok will get banned in the US?
I
Or
don't
like
know.
what's
I mean, I would expect that if it does, I thought there was like basically a condition on the ban, like basically that it would only be banned if they don't sell to some non-Chinese company. That's what I understood the
yes.
ban proposal to be. So I actually would expect that rather than completely lose their entire US user base, they would like cave and sell to some company overseas or like in a different country or whatever. Um, that's kind of what I would expect, but I don't know. Who knows?
Yeah, I don't think it's getting passed. Because you guys have the First Amendment. And I know that I think it's Congress or whoever has to sign the bill has to um, has the last who gets to decide last because I know Biden said he would sign it, but the Congress or jury, whatever your legal system is, I don't think they'll sign it because there isn't really a reason to. Um, the First Amendment kind of outweighs the risks of TikTok being in the US.
Yeah. Honestly, I try not to follow some like politics in too much detail. It's just a dumpster fire.
Yes.
Sigma Drummers official says, any thoughts on how most globes are labeled not for educational purposes? I don't know if that's correct. I personally have never even seen a globe labeled that. Mine isn't. Mine says, you know, all of the like academic details here and gives a scale. It's scale of 1 to 64 million. It's an 8-inch diameter globe, which corresponds to like at a scale of 1 to 64 million, that corresponds to an Earth of 8,000 mile diameter. So like mine's for educational purposes. I don't know what you're talking about. Like
I
I'm
think it's
sure
the
there are
exact
globes out
opposite.
there that say that, but what are we talking about here?
I think it's the exact opposite. I think it says for educational purposes on most of the globes.
Mine doesn't even say anything like that.
Yeah, mine
And
doesn't,
I
but
looked too,
the
like, because
name.
I saw somebody comment about that. I don't think I've ever seen that on a globe. Not personally. Like, yeah, like if it's a decorative globe that's not like proportionally accurate, then I can see them needing to put a disclaimer on it like that. Um, but like how often do you actually see a decorative globe like that? I mean, I don't think I've ever seen one up close. When I was
I
growing
think
up, we
mine
had like
is.
two different globes that were educational, and this one's educational. I don't know. What educational value does the globe provide? Well, it's the only way to actually have an accurate map of a spherical surface. It's mathematically impossible to draw the surface of a sphere on a flat piece of paper, without distortion of some kind. So every flat paper map of the globe, you will see it has some type of map projection um, that it's made with. Okay, like a very common one used for the entire Earth is Mercator projection, where uh, it takes the international date line here, running down between Russia and Alaska, and down to the South Pole. It takes that line and cuts the sphere right there and unwraps it into a cylinder. Um, that's what Mercator projection does, and it tries to keep like proportional angles, I think. And the way it does that is like it it highly distorts the north and south poles, and that's why Greenland ends up looking gigantic on the Mercator projection. But it's just because of like the different purposes for each map projection. You cannot have a perfect map projection for a flat paper map of a sphere. So a globe is the only way to look at a map of the Earth that's not distorted anywhere. That's what educational value it has. So I don't have any flat earthers requesting.
Oh,
Maybe I can like try to address some of Alicia's points here. Although things have carried on quite far. Has anybody answered my question about like what the word topographical means to a flat earther? Because that is a
no.
burning question for me right now. I really want to know what they think that word means, like why they're using it.
Oops. My AirPods.
Oh, we got a
No.
guest request from Mezzo.
Yeah. Accept. Oh, yeah. I don't think he's a flat earther.
Certainly
Makes it
not.
That's all right. If I don't have a flat earther requesting, I'll let Glober join. That's fine.
No, but I do know about the topographical word that they use and why they use it.
Yeah.
Earlier on, as these debates kind of started, people who were not as educated as you, maybe, but still Globers, would say, "What do you mean the Earth is flat? I'm looking at a mountain right now." And so
Oh,
they got really used to saying, "Obviously, I know there are mountains and valleys. I'm not saying it's like a smooth surface. There are ups and downs, but the
okay.
general shape is
So
disc
they're
like, yeah."
they're basically saying a plane with topography.
Yeah, the
Okay.
even more technical ones will say like it's a geostationary topographical plane with the torus field, or like they'll add as many things as they can to sound scientific, and that's kind of the purpose behind it.
All right. Well, thank you for clearing that up. That really helps.
Okay.
I appreciate that.
Yeah, absolutely, no problem. And I don't mean to bring it back to the awful anti-Semitism that seems to come along with it, with
Well, it
flat Earth.
seems
I
to be
don't.
an active topic in the comments right now.
Yeah, and I was curious about it because, Alicia down there it seems like she is pretty new to flat Earth and just randomly said, "Well, what about you? I mean, do you think that it happened or not?" And she won't answer, and it's very odd because it's a very easy answer. So
Yeah.
I don't know. It is surprising to me still, like, what every time
Yeah.
you actually ask them, it connects to it.
The mass unaliving of a certain ethnic people group during World War II did happen historically. I think it affected probably, if my history knowledge is correct, it affected like 6 million of them. Is that right?
yes, a minimum.
Minimum.
Yeah,
Some scholars
So
say it's nine.
and that's
It's
just who
six to nine.
were,
Yes.
that's only of the Jewish people. My grandfather was not Jewish, but was in a camp. So there
yeah,
are, even more people that were impacted that are part of that denial. I don't know. It's not the topic
yeah.
of your thing, but it kind of leaned into that, and it is very weird. So,
Yeah, hesitating
um,
on that answer is a big red flag. I agree. And so, Alicia, if you are hesitating to answer yes, that means that you have some type of bias toward distrusting the history books on that, and um, that's problematic for a lot of reasons. Not just because you're distrusting authority. That doesn't matter. You could deny the moon landing all you want. Nobody's gonna like say that you're being anti-Semitic for that. Okay, but when you deny the suffering of that large a number of victims, then um, it's more problematic than just denying like the moon landing, for example.
yeah,
I
and
know
if
you
you
didn't
if
deny
you
anything, but I'm saying if you hesitate on the
yeah, if
answer,
you don't
okay,
answer,
because
that's a denial.
yeah, because it's undeniable fact and it shows bias that you are hesitating. And that bias is itself problematic, even if it's not an actual denial.
Here, I'll show her. Hey, Peter, did the Holocaust happen?
Yes.
Okay, good. Yeah, that's all.
Although,
And you and I
let's
disagree on a lot of things. I'm not a religious person myself. We disagree on many things, but
yeah,
there's some
fair.
stuff that's like, yes, yes, okay, good. We can have a conversation.
Yes.
Yeah, and Alicia, you may not be here for that conversation, but the thing is, if people are going to start to find out you have that problematic bias that causes you to hesitate on the answer, that's not that's not okay.
It
That's
also
that's not
forces
okay.
me. It forces me to distrust whoever is speaking. So if someone's trying to convince me of anything, for example, if
Yeah.
they're trying to convince me that the Earth is flat, and let's say I'm listening, I'm like, okay, yeah, and I do like when I do my lives, I listen. I try to listen. I've done like one live ever about it, but I
Yeah.
listen and I have a good conversation, like you do, and I try not to interrupt, and I try to hear them out, and I try to be very open minded. But if you hear that they're also along those types of lines, it's like you're a liar. You're someone who I just can't trust. So it does like put your reputation does come into play at a certain point.
I
Anyway, I
mean,
also
Alicia, I did not assume anything. Are you talking to me or somebody else? I didn't assume
I
anything.
I am assuming. I'll say I am assuming with her that I think she is Holocaust denier. I will say that, and then she's welcome to prove me wrong. But until then, I'll step back down and I'm gonna half listen and half watch a movie with my kids. So carry on.
All right. Well, thank you so much for sharing, Mezzo. Have a good day. Maybe we could get back on the subject of science, because this guy,
Yes, maybe not talk about history.
Joker 888 is saying, how does gravity actually work? Well, okay, it's a force applied on the Earth. We observe it as a force applied downward to all matter. Okay, that works on a flat Earth or a sphere. It just depends on whether you think, space science is real, whether you are going to perform any detailed scientific experiments to measure gravity in a lab. Okay, it's not electrons. No, it's not electrons. It's not magnetism. These are You're just throwing out weird, random little physics terms. It's not any of those things. We don't know what. Okay, I actually mentioned this in a video of mine early on in my profile. Yeah, we don't know. Science cannot tell you why a physical law exists. That's not science. That's not physics. That's metaphysics by definition. If science were to try to tell you why a physical law exists, that would not be science. By definition, that would not be science. My belief is that gravity works because God made it work. Okay, I don't know exactly how he did that. The Bible doesn't go into that detail. It just says, God made the heavens and the earth. And I believe that includes the laws of physics, okay, that we study. So when we study the laws of physics, we find out that it works a certain way, and it must be, like, if I believe that God created the world, then it must be that God's the one who made it work that way, okay? That's how the logic works according to my worldview. But science cannot tell you why a physical law exists. The only thing science can do is discover and describe that physical law to say that it does exist. Anything beyond that is metaphysics. You can't ask science to answer that question.
Italy doesn't exist.
Yeah, Alicia, looks like he's trolling you.
Yeah.
I kind of feel like it's a little bit deserved at this point. The whole
You
point
gotta
is
like
nobody
it,
actually knows anything. No, that is not what I just said. That is not a conclusion you can draw from what I just said. What I said is that there's a difference between physics versus metaphysics, okay? So, what I said is that science cannot tell you why a physical law exists, because that by definition is metaphysics. So, as a scientific society, we don't know why a physical law like gravity exists. That does not mean nobody knows anything. What an amazing leap of logic. Go look up non sequitur and look in the mirror for a minute.
Yeah, at least a clown emoji. The clown emoji isn't an argument.
Yeah, very
That
true.
has the same impact on our conversation as the sentence no.
Yeah. We got a guest request from Astro Issues. I'm gonna accept that.
What's going on, Pete?
Welcome.
What
How's
is
it going?
going
I'm not a flat earther. I'm a glober, and I'm an astronomer. Now, since we don't have any flat earthers up, I did want to ask, if you don't mind, if we get into
Sure.
your theistic beliefs versus the globe and all that, how you reconcile biblical fact, the Bible, and all the scientific facts. I find it interesting.
Well, there are areas of that conversation that I'm not sure we should get into in detail. I will just give you a full disclosure from the beginning. I'm a young Earth creationist. So that means I believe in the globe, but not in Darwinistic evolution. I do believe in natural selection and adaptation and speciation, or all those things. It's just like the grand historical narrative that we have common ancestors with dogs and monkeys and amoebas and all those. And I also don't agree with the Big Bang cosmogony idea that the universe began with a singularity. So that's my belief, and the
Well, that
reason I
makes it
believe
much
that
more interesting.
the reason I believe those things is because that's basically how I reconcile modern science with the Bible. So I believe that the Bible is the Word of God, but I do not insert things into my reading of the Bible that are not there. Okay, so that's what flat earthers do. They read things like, the four corners of the earth as a phrase used to mean everywhere. And they think that means there are literally four corners. Well, when I approach the Bible, I ask the question, okay, what did the original author actually mean when he wrote this? Under the inspiration of the Holy Spirit, according to my view, there was still a meaning that the author had in mind. What was that meaning? How can we take off our 21st century bias in understanding that meaning? And the vast majority of verses that flat earthers use, you will find it's very, very simple to look at those as phenomenological language, meaning that it's describing how things look to a human observer. So, like, if it says that God is enthroned above the circle of the earth, it's just saying, like, if you're standing on the earth, it looks like a circle from your point of view, and God's enthroned above you somewhere. That's what it's saying. And it doesn't even mean that literally necessarily. It's just communicating that God is in dominion over the earth. So like those passages do not seem to me, if I try to honestly approach the question, what did the author mean when they wrote this? They do not seem to me to be trying to communicate cosmology. Now history is a different thing. When the Bible gives a historical narrative, usually it gets pretty serious. Okay, it gives names, dates, genealogies, ages, numbers of things, places, geography.
Measurements.
It's all these little details. And it's like when I approach texts like that, I say, it looks to me like this author actually meant this as literal history, and that includes Genesis chapter 1, where it gives an account of God creating the earth in different stages over the course of 6 days, where it says there was morning and evening. You could argue about the meaning of the Hebrew word day, but what about the words morning and evening? Those have specific meaning. And so it's a matter of careful exegesis. And flat earthers are not good at careful exegesis. And as far as how I reconcile that with science is, I always try to point out to people that the historical narratives of Darwinism, that we have a universal common ancestor, etc., that is all based on inference, right? So like we can sequence our genome, we can measure, the sizes of bones in fossils, we can develop a catalog of species in the fossil record, we can do all these things, but that does not make it so we were there to observe evolution happen, right? It's an inference. And that means that it's up to some level of interpretation. That's not the same as us being able to take a photograph from the Earth, or a photograph of the Earth from space. You know, the Earth is a sphere. That's absolutely undeniable, observable fact. We have pictures of it. We do not have pictures of the origin of man, right? So that's where I think there's some wiggle room to give the Bible more authority in my worldview. So does that answer your question?
It does, and it kind of leads me on to like 10 more questions.
Yeah, I suspected this was going to be a kind of a can of worms.
No. I respect you. I'm a follower of your channel, and I watch a lot of your debates. So I'm not gonna start just saying what you're saying is a bunch of hooey. You're a very intellectual gentleman, and
Thank you.
you
I appreciate
are
that.
more advanced on some topics than I am. I am an astronomer. I was raised Jewish, and I'm basically agnostic. I believe in a higher power, but the Torah to me is a collection of stories to try and instill a moral code into people. Is how I see it. So
Okay.
now, you're the first young Earth creationist I've ever talked to. So if I have any questions that seem like I'm being a dick, don't take it as me being a dick. Okay,
That's all
so
right. I mean, I'm quite used to the fact that my view is in a very small minority. So
okay, so being someone
Combined with
that has a
Christianity.
strong biblical belief and sense of God, caveman versus Adam and Eve is there like any relation to caveman or anything like that, or is it just Adam and Eve started in the Garden of Eden from there?
yeah, I believe Adam and Eve were literal historical figures, the first people, and I believe God literally made Adam out of the dust of the ground and literally made Eve out of one of his ribs. I believe that story is literally true. As far as cavemen go, obviously that ties to a lot of concepts from the Darwinistic history, or even pre-Darwin, like there was kind of a geological deep time kind of uh, secular alternative to Genesis. And like I obviously don't agree with that conception of man's origins and anthropology. Uh, were there literally people who lived in caves, you know, during the Bronze Age or whatever? Sure. I mean, they probably descended from Adam and Eve. You know, they were not intellectually inferior to us. They were not like subhuman. They were just people who lived in caves, and made beautiful cave paintings, you know, that I couldn't even do, and I'm an artist. um, like, so I don't know. I will admit, the biggest challenge to my worldview is probably the various types of radiometric dating. I do not have detailed answers on like how that can be reconciled with my view. I have a few things that I see as indicators that like um, the majority consensus about radiometric dating is a little bit shaky sometimes, or like not as rock solid evidence as they think it is. But like, I mean, I'm looking at these flat earthers and trying to learn a lesson here, right? Because there are certain similarities that you can draw. Like, I have seen young earth creationists in my family or in my church, like cherry picking the way that flat earthers do, or having an inappropriate expectation of perfection from science like flat earthers do. And I'm seeing this go on with flat earthers, and I'm like, okay, there's a lesson here for me. You know, I need to admit when I don't know something instead of just trying to like, yeah. So one of those things is I don't have total answers on radiometric dating. And And I also don't really have answers on like distant starlight, for example. But that's in my mind less of a problem because I think it's um, kind of a matter of interpreting the meaning of like time on a cosmological scale, if you know what I mean.
I can see that. No, the reason I asked about the whole Adam and Eve story is that's what kind of led me off my really being strict to the Torah, is because the
Yeah.
whole speciation and genetic drift. If you had two people that populated the planet, we'd have a lot of genetic issues, much more than we have now, and is what I
Well,
cleared off for me.
I can understand that point, although my counterpoint would be like that you're interpolating instead of extrapolating, if you know what I mean. Like you're taking how the quality of our genome today and saying, well, if there were just two of us and the whole planet was populated from that, then we'd all be inbred. Well, yes, obviously. But think about it this way. We are the way we are now after some 6,000 years of human history. You got to extrapolate backward to find what the quality of the original human genome was. You know, in the Torah, it says that Adam and Eve lived like 900 years, you know, and Methuselah, well, Methuselah was the oldest one recorded. I think he was like 900. I'm forgetting some of the numbers, but you know what I mean. Like they lived centuries. And to me that points to very high quality human genome. You know, and notice during the population bottleneck described in the Torah after Noah's flood, that age, the average age that it says people live, that drops precipitously right after that population bottleneck, where everyone dies in the Great Flood and the earth needs to be repopulated from Noah's family. I mean, if you look at the genealogies, that age expected that life expectancy drops. It just plummets after the Noah's flood. Doesn't that make sense to you?
Yeah, I can see that, but you also had Moses that lived for a crazy age. He was what 400 when he passed.
I thought he was like 120.
I don't know. It's been a long time since I read.
Let me look it up. I love the Torah, by the way. Like
I was a fan, and learning a language to read backwards and upside down was very confusing during my
well, I
bar.
read it in English. I don't know Hebrew. You know, that's not what I mean. I love the stories and
Oh,
the and
it's
the
it's
and
great
the
storytelling.
like the text is this. I believe this is sacred divine revelation, and I love it with all of my heart and soul. And it's not just that, but like I grew up with my dad reading me this every night. You know, this is I love these stories. And so um like I don't know. I just wanted to say that because it's not often that I get to talk about this with people. Um so the death of Moses would have been in Deuteronomy, I think. Right? End of Deuteronomy. No, that's Leviticus. Numbers, Deuteronomy. Yeah.
I think it's 120 years old. 120 years, yes.
So I was right. Didn't I say that?
Yeah,
120 years?
yeah, it's at 120 years.
Yeah. So yeah, Moses lived 120 years.
Okay,
That's Deuteronomy 34:7.
it's been a long time because I am
Yeah.
35 now, and most of my Torah studies was between 10 and 13.
Yeah. I mean, I have read the Tanakh and the New Testament this what evangelicals call the 66 books of their canon. I have read that 13 times in my life. And the entire time that I was doing that, I was reading it as divine scripture. So if there was a contradiction that I could not explain in my mind, that would always stick out to me like a sore thumb. And there were times where I had questions. Like I would read a verse and it would be like, "Well, wait a minute. Doesn't that seem to contradict or, whatever?" And I would think about it for a while. I might ask some people who knew more than me, or I might look up some information online or whatever. And sometimes I would receive answers that would help me understand better. And I would be like, "Oh, okay, that's not really a contradiction." Or, "Oh, okay, that does make sense." And so, if you have things like that, where from your studies of the Torah, where you like it seems to you like this can't be possible or it can't be true, that's one of my favorite subjects, and I'm not going to try to be forceful about it. You have your own views. I'm not going to try to change your views or anything. But I just love this subject so much. And so if you have any like things that you've read in the Bible that don't make sense to you that you'd like to share with me, I would love to talk about those things.
I might have to take you up on that another time. I do have to run.
Yeah, okay.
A great conversation. I'm still a big fan. I'm not gonna. As long as you're not a flat earther, I'll talk to you.
Yeah.
But I have to go run my dogs, and I have a dog training session coming in here soon. So you guys have a great night, and I'll talk to you guys
Thanks.
later.
All
Thanks,
right.
you too.
Have a good night.
Someone want to give me the boot? No, I found it.
Well, that was fun.
Oh, yeah.
What is going on in the chat here?
I don't know. Something about the black sun.
You can't see the moon during the day, even sometimes a full moon. What's up with that? Yeah,
I
you
can see
can.
the moon on a day.
Sigma Drummer official. Have you never seen the moon during the day? I have many times. I actually have pictures of it. That's a weird thing to say. Oh, you can? Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah, I did misread that. Sorry. I gave you a bum rap. Okay. Oh, are you? Yeah, okay. So you're arguing on the Globe side with Alicia. Okay. Yeah, sorry. Or no, you're not arguing on the Globe side. How would a full
No,
moon
it's
work
not.
on? How would a full moon work during the day on a globe? Well, it's going to be on the opposite side of the sky. It's not going to be a totally full moon unless it's literally like at the horizon, looming up because of atmospheric refraction. But that's not very common. Most of the time, when you see the moon in the sky and it looks mostly full, it's like a gibbous moon, not totally full. And if you track with if you look at it and track in 3D space where the light side is pointing, it will point directly toward the sun every time. Uh,
Well, not in
so
100% full moon. But the
Sigma Drummer
moon, yes.
official, it does happen on rare occasion if both the sun and the moon are on opposite horizons. Okay, it can happen on rare occasion. Travis Scott album cover with a full moon. Well, okay, album covers are very often like just artwork, not photographs. Like, I, um, I mean, they're not even meant to be real photographs most of the time.
Mm.
So, um, are any of these flat earthers in here willing to join and talk about sunset? Because sunset absolutely completely destroys the robothemist flat earth model. Okay, and it forces flat earth to once again find a different explanation for time zones. You know, basically, the primary proof against a flat earth is seasons and time zones. And like the way that Samuel Rowbotham resuscitated flat earth after the discovery of time zones is by denying the phenomenon of sunset. So I proved that the sun goes below eye level, and all this nonsense about the sun traveling away horizontally until it's gone, that's not what happens. The sun does not travel away from us. It doesn't change angular size, it doesn't change angular speed. It goes below eye level. Period. So, um yeah, any flat earthers want to join and talk about that? If not, I might have to end soon because it's been a couple hours.
Yeah, I know. It's 4
All
a.m.
things
soon.
do when they move away from you. No, things moving away does not cause them to go below eye level. That's not a thing.
The sun isn't
That's
moving
not a
away.
thing. Sorry, what, Olivia?
The
What'd you
the
say?
sun isn't is the sun. Wait. The sun isn't moving away. It's not changing. Um, uh, the space in between isn't changing. If we have on on days, it changes around the year with the seasons. Winter, the Earth is far more away from the sun, but on the day, like the sunset, the Earth doesn't move away from the sun.
Well, I don't know exactly where the like far and near points in Earth's orbit are, but I know that the biggest factor in the Earth's seasons is just the axial tilt. So, like, while the northern hemisphere is experiencing summer, the southern hemisphere is experiencing winter, and vice versa. So, because the whole Earth isn't moving farther and closer to make seasons, it's just the different hemispheres are tilting. Um, what is stuck to my globe here? Um, so what exactly is Alicia's claim here? I'm not sure I understand. The light poles didn't appear to get smaller. What are you talking about? I'm sorry. Something stuck to my... How have I had this globe this long and not seen this? It's like a piece of tape or something. Bend the still water on the surface in your bathtub. You can't. Well, that's because gravity doesn't work at the scale of a bathtub. Look at a picture that has a bunch of light bulbs. Oh, you're talking about like street lamps and stuff. Yeah, street lamps do not go below eye level at the vanishing point. That's not a thing. Okay. All right. All right, Alicia. Well, let me drag out the time lapse that I made. We're
The
getting into
distance
this.
is not changing. I just I just realized the distance from the Earth to the sun isn't changing. That's what I don't know. Somebody told me that when I was like 10.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I don't think it's
Okay, I got
entirely correct.
confused. Yeah, no, it's completely false.
Well, there is a slight eccentricity or ovalness to the Earth's orbit, so it does change a little bit, but only by a few percentage points. And I'm not sure exactly like if
Yeah,
that
no,
lines up with
that's
seasons
what
or
I
not.
meant. No.
Yeah. Anyway, so Alicia, this is to show you that you are wrong. So what I did here was I set my camera on the ground on a bridge. So you can see the guardrails here, and you can even see a light pole here, like you said. Although it's not a row of light poles like you were saying. We're gonna have to rely on guardrails and stuff. But like what I did was I held a flashlight at waist level and I just walked away from the camera. And this took like 10 or 15 minutes before I disappeared to the camera's view. Okay. And this is basically what it should look like if the flat Earth, if the robothemist flat Earth claims like you're making, if those are true. Here is a composite where I took like every 10 frames or something and overlaid them to show, like, you see how far apart these two, the flashlight is on these 10 frames? Like, it moves this far in the course of 10 frames, or however long the interval is. I don't remember. But then you see how it gets smaller? Like the distance between each interval. So like what this shows is that the flashlight is slowing down as it gets farther away. Alicia, you gotta just pay attention to what I'm saying. I'm not Googling stuff for you. Just pay attention. Okay, so the flashlight does two things as it's moving away according to linear perspective. It gets smaller and it slows down as it descends in the camera's view. And guess what? Right here at the vanishing point, it does not go below eye level because the vanishing point is eye level and it doesn't go below the vanishing point. It just shrinks to the vanishing point. So like if I go back to the non-composite one, right? This is what that vanishing point looks like. So notice how it very quickly goes down to like a tiny speck just hovering on the horizon. And as the video plays, it just hovers there because it has slowed down so much you can no longer see it descending, and it just stays there, getting smaller and smaller and slower until finally it disappears because it's smaller than a pixel. Now at this moment, there is still an intact line of sight between that flashlight and the camera lens. Okay, there's nothing blocking that line of sight. So the flashlight is not below eye level. It's just too small to see. This is completely different from what we observe at sunset. Okay, so this is normal camera view. This is camera with a sheet of welding glass in front of it so we can see the actual size of the sun better. Okay, Alicia, you're not paying attention. You gotta pay attention, lady. Okay, so I was measuring here with a compass and sextant, by the way. And we can look at the numbers, but this is what the time lapse looks like. Okay. And then let's do the same thing that we did before where we overlay at constant intervals, right? Okay, do you see any difference in how far it travels during an interval up here versus down here? Like, yeah, it gets a little dimmer because of atmospheric attenuation. Don't get distracted by that. Flat earthers always get distracted by that, but look at the distance during intervals. You know, if you were to measure pixels, you'd clearly see the center of each sun is the same distance up here to down here. Yeah, Alicia's just not even paying attention at all. She's just just regurgitating flat Earth script at this point. So here's the numeric plot of my compass and sextant. And here is the scalar speed calculated according to spherical trig. And that's not because the Earth is a sphere, folks. That's because we see on a celestial sphere. Okay, so that's why spherical trig was used here. But let me line these up, and you can see the compass and sextant conclusively show, with numeric proof, that during the time lapse, the sun's rate of descent in the sky did not change at all. Like this line is a straight line. It's not an arctangent function like we would see with a scenario like this. This is an arctangent function. You know, the distances between these composite images decrease according to an arctangent function. And this is not what we see at all. Not even close. It's this 100% disproves Robothemist flat Earth. So this explanation for time zones is complete incoherent garbage. And honestly, I'm shocked that anyone even thought of it, because it's such nonsense. You could not arrive at this by observing sunset. It's that no one could have come up with this nonsense idea by carefully observing sunset. This is a rescuing device to resuscitate flat Earth theory in the era of time zones. All right. Yeah, Alicia thinks I failed because she wasn't paying attention to a single word I said. Great.
I'm pretty sure the sun doesn't sit on flat Earth.
She's complaining about the sizes and distances. Like, you think it's going to be different just because the sun is bigger and farther away? Like, okay, let's talk about trigonometry, okay? So you're saying basically, like, okay, my flashlight is like a small, close object, and the sun is like a large, distant object, right? But the thing is, the laws of perspective apply the same way no matter what. If you measure an angular size, that tells you, if you take the tangent of that angle, that tells you the ratio of the radius to the distance. Or if you were to draw a right triangle, like to measure the altitude instead of the size, it would be the same thing. The tangent of your angle would be the altitude, like the physical altitude above the ground, divided by the horizontal distance. That's basic trigonometry. It does not matter how big and how far away it is. Okay, the same principles apply. It's an arctangent function either way. So, somebody's saying I'm trying too hard. Look, this wasn't even me trying hard. What I'm trying hard to do is explain these concepts to people who do not want to learn. That's what I'm trying hard to do. And yeah, that is kind of tough. And it hasn't worked once yet. But that's not the fault of the concepts or the fault of my teaching ability. I don't think. I think there's something else going on there. Anyway. It doesn't actually get smaller, it just appears to. No, you've got it reversed, okay? Your model requires that it would get smaller. Oh wait, no, okay. She's saying it doesn't physically get smaller. Okay.
Yes.
Okay, I get it. I just don't understand like why they're all following Samuel Robotham like some kind of Pied Piper. Like there was nothing at all scientific about his theory.
Who is that?
With it by observing sunset. Period.
Who?
Especially since when pressed on this point, flat earthers typically will say that it's some kind of atmospheric lensing or magnification or optical illusion. So what they're saying then is that the evidence is deceptive in favor of a globe. Well, if that's true, then again, how did Samuel Robotham come up with this idea? It's such nonsense.
Who's Samuel? Samuel O. Robotham?
Yeah, Samuel Robotham. He came up with the flat Earth, modern flat Earth theory in 1849, I think. Robotham is Rowbotham. So, yeah, here he is.
Ah, Robotham. Nicht O Robotham.
You found him?
I thought you said his middle name is something with an O. But no, it's Samuel Robotham, okay.
Yeah.
I just... Synthetic Society.
Yeah, that was his thing. Was he was saying it's he was calling his theory zetetic astronomy.
It's just
but
pseudoscience.
well, I should probably think about calling it quits.
Yes.
I can't get any flat earthers to join my live.
You had 100 views, though, like 2 hours ago.
Yeah.
Yeah, your life has the potential.
Thanks. Oh, Sigma Drummer Official says, I hope to go live with you someday. I don't have access yet. That is relatable. That is very relatable. There seems to be kind of a power structure in the TikTok platform based on clout and platform size.
Yeah, I think it's based on so you can't troll people with new accounts.
That does make sense, but it has the unfortunate effect of like, because not everybody can just like whip out 1,000 followers.
Yes.
Like that's just not something everyone can do. So those people are just put in a difficult position. I was in that difficult position until I reposted my 2019 Flat Earth video in small clips. Once I did that, my views just skyrocketed. Or my followers skyrocketed, and I got over 1,000 then. But I just got lucky. I mean, that video is on YouTube for, it's been on YouTube for 5 years now. And I don't have that many followers on YouTube. So.
Wait, do you remember my comments I left under your videos?
I do remember some of your comments, or at least I know that your username seemed familiar when I invited you on my live the first time. I could probably go back and find them.
Yeah, no, I was the guy that said, I think I asked you if you will go live if you hit 100, the 1,000 followers.
Oh, yeah, I do remember that comment. Yes. Yeah, I remember that.
Really nice.
Sigma Drummer says I did some pretty good flat Earth rap songs. Oh boy. Getting an ODD TV's space there.
But there's a big, not like a platform of people, but the flat earthers, they are willing to spend a lot of money on flat earth merch, for example. Have you ever watched, I think there's a flat earth meeting like once a year, and
Yeah.
holy shit, they make so much money of just
Oh man.
t-shirts. And one guy had a flat earth model. I think it was priced at 3,000 US dollars, and people actually bought that.
That's just gross. Oh my goodness. That's just gross. Okay, so we got Michael D saying the Bible mentions the firmament and nowhere does it say planet or space. Well, yeah, obviously it's not teaching space. It's teaching salvation. Why on earth would it try to explain space? The Bible was not written just for you. It was written for people in all ages, at all times in history, and like, why would God care about teaching space science to someone in 2000 BC or someone in like the first century AD? That's just nonsense. God had a specific goal in mind when he wrote the Bible, and that goal was not to teach that the earth was a sphere. It also was not to teach that the earth is flat. It does not care. The Bible does not care about the shape of the earth. It does not teach one or the other. Just because it uses the word firmament, if you read a certain translation, does not mean anything because the word firmament is a mistranslation. It's from the Greek, or it's from the Hebrew word rakia, which means vastness or expanse. We had someone familiar with Hebrew on earlier confirm that the word rakia means vastness or expanse. If it existed, it would be in the Bible. Okay, how about iPhones? iPhones exist, but they're not in the Bible. That's a completely nonsense argument.
The Bible is a collection of books and old scriptures that do not focus on science. They focus on God.
Yeah.
Not on like trying to prove something to you. That the Bible gives tips on how to live a holy life or how to treat your wife, for example, not how to research the earth.
Yeah, or how to be reconciled with God, how to find forgiveness from your sin, those sorts of things.
Yes, how to repent.
So like, if it exists, it would be in the Bible. That is such a stupid statement. I'm sorry, Michael D. I'm not trying to be mean. That is a stupid, ignorant thing to say.
The Bible didn't exist till 1500 BC. The Bible didn't exist in Jesus' times. The New Testament and its scriptures existed, but the Bible wasn't put together until like the 1500s. That's why you have the letters of Paul, because the Bible didn't exist and people couldn't interpret this.
Well, the Old Testament existed in Jesus' day, and Jesus read from the Old Testament and quoted the Old Testament, and so did all the apostles. But yeah, there wasn't like a consolidated canon that included the New Testament epistles yet. You're right, that didn't come until I think like the Second Council of Nicaea or something. Michael D., I do agree. We were created by God. We didn't come from monkeys. We don't share common ancestors with monkeys. I agree with you on that. Okay, because I'm a young Earth creationist. But, we have to draw a distinction here because this is a matter of coming to the Bible with the humble question, what is the original author intending to say? You are projecting onto the original author when you read the word firmament and think that means a hard substance. Okay? If you can't believe in God and the globe, that's completely stupid nonsense. There are millions, billions of people who believe in God and the globe. Who are you to say you can't believe in God and the globe? That's just nonsense.
I want to address something some guy said about the Bible not being put together in the 1500s. It kind of is a hard topic because yes, that was the canonical. This was that were the canonical books, not the entire Bible, because the Catholic Church had to, or back then, from my perspective, what's the Orthodox Church? They No, in the 1500s they had to fight heresy and all that stuff, so they had to make like a book. And in the in 300 CE, AD, sorry, that didn't exist. They had the Council of Nicaea, for example, to fight heresy, like with Arianism. Not the thing, that Jesus was created, blah blah.
Yeah.
But that Jesus,
which Jehovah's Witnesses teach to this day.
Yes. Yeah, I'm not talking about scripture in like combined, like the letters of Paul. I'm talking about the actual Bible.
Yeah.
I just want to address the other comment.
Yeah, there surely were, lingering questions or disagreements about certain like details on what should be included in canon or what shouldn't, for a while. I don't know the full history on that, but I'd like to address this thing that Michael D said. Either you believe in God or science. Make up your mind. Michael D, have you seen my video series on epistemology? It's two of them are pinned right now. It's a 3-part series. The first part is about my Christian Glober epistemology. The second part is about atheist Glober epistemology. And the third part is about flat earth epistemology. Okay? If you haven't watched those videos, you should watch them. Okay? Because I specifically address what you're saying there. You are promoting conflict thesis. You have been duped by 19th century atheists. You are promoting a false dichotomy. You don't have to just choose either science or God. That's not a thing. That is just not a thing. You have been duped by 19th century atheists. If they could see you right now from hell, they would be laughing up their sleeve at you. If laughter in hell is a thing, I don't know. I'm not trying to be irreverent. I'm just trying to hammer the point home here. It's a trap. It is a complete trap. And Michael D, you have fallen for it completely. Now, I also point out in my series on epistemology, I also point out this is not a dead theory, right? Like, atheists are still pushing this to this day. But that doesn't mean that we should just let them thrust the sword into us and like, yes, I agree with this false dichotomy of conflict thesis. No, that's not how this works. It's a false dichotomy. You can choose God and science because God made science. God made science. How do you not get that? Am I being too forceful? I don't know. I get kind of animated sometimes.
We have a Michael and a Michael D in the chat.
Oh, that's confusing.
Yes.
I think I've been careful to say Michael D most of the time that I've been
Yes,
addressing his. Hopefully I didn't get them confused.
No,
yeah, Michael D, I do personally disagree with Big Bang cosmogony. Okay? I agree that that seems to be in conflict with a biblical narrative of history. You know, that's my personal belief because I'm a young Earth creationist. So, I mean, there's ways to thread the needle here and actually maintain balance and not be a flat earther. Now, of course, Bob the Science Guy did call me a science denier. He just said my form of science denial was more benign. So, I mean, I don't really have a comeback to that.
Why did he call you a science denier?
Well, because I'm a young Earth creationist, I deny Darwinism
Okay,
and Big Bang cosmogony. So,
okay.
I mean, a lot of people think that's another form of science denial, similar to flat Earth theory. Um, Obviously, I disagree, but you know. All right. Well, I should probably call it quits for tonight. I've been on
Yeah,
for.
it's 4 a.m. right now. I would go to bed as well.
Oh yeah. Well, Alippy, thank you so much for sticking with us this long. I hope you um, get some good sleep.
Oh yeah, I will. I will. Okay.
All right. Well, thank you, everybody. Have a good night.
Okay. Have a good night. Bye.
Any other last minute comments before I close it out? This just looks like a dumpster fire right now. Maybe it's for the best if I close it out. Okay, Michael D, I don't think you should even be pushing that, like, either God created us or the Big Bang, period, because there is such a thing as theism, even Christianity, where you believe in a Big Bang cosmogony, okay? I don't think that's what the Bible teaches. I think it contradicts what the Bible teaches, but that's my interpretation of the Bible. Somebody can be Christian, a genuine born again Christian, and believe in Big Bang cosmogony. I don't know how to help them do that because that's not my belief, but it is possible. I know people like that. So let's be careful what we say here. Sigma drummer, I followed. Hope to chat again sometime, Peter. I'm more motivated to get my views up now so I can school you on flat Earth. All right, bring it on. Good luck. Um, as long as you follow my rules, you'll always be welcome here. Or also, as long as you're not a neo Yahtzee, if you know what I mean, person who believes in. Yeah, I'm so sorry. I got a guest request. I don't know how to pronounce that. UNSKey. I'm so sorry. I was planning to close out now, so I probably shouldn't accept another guest. Sigma drummer, I like your style. Thank you. All right. Well, thanks everybody. Have a good night.